All right. Hi, tarot friends. It's Jade here. Welcome back to my channel. Hair's still wet from my workout, but that's okay. I wanted to take the opportunity to do a walkthrough, sort of a side-by-side comparison of actually 6 decks, which I received. So the first 3 that I got, so all of these are Tarot de Marseille, or Tarot Marseille adjacent. I think there's one of them at least is a Besancon. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Anyway, so you may have heard me talk before about how I really find the Tarot de Marseille to be an ugly deck. Let's just be honest. And that is because the ones that I was exposed to were okay, I'm not sure what the right word is, if it's reproduction or just a reprint. I'm not sure how you describe it, but it's decks like the Hodorowski deck or the CBD tarot. So those are decks which are based on the Conver tarot deck, but they have all been recolored in new colors, or I guess colors that the creators of those decks thought might have been the original colors way back when, in the 17 and 1800s. So I really don't like the primary colors. I don't like the primary colors that are used. The reds and the blues together are just I don't like them. And the other thing was the faces. I find the faces weird, especially the eyes. They freak me out. I am much more in love with the ancient Italian decks, or the historical Italian decks. This is the Sopraffino by Menegallo. And you can see, you can just see if you look at the faces, hopefully that's focusing, but the faces are just kind of realistic. The eyes are not exaggerated. You can still see where they're looking. The colors are muted and just more complementary to each other. I much prefer that. So let's fast forward a year, and I'm getting more and more into the reading method of the Tarot de Marseille. And I read my Italian decks much like the Tarot de Marseille. So I've been learning actually a lot about that. And in doing so, I was exposed to the old reproductions of some of the older decks. So not using the primary colors, just, what they might have looked like way back then. So the first 3 decks which I received are this one here, the François Heri, 1730. It's a very cute little deck. The Pierre Madenie, 1709. And the Tarot François Gassmann, or Gassmann, perhaps, 1840. I love these each for a different reason. And so I'm going to show those side by side. The François Heri, actually, you can see is, actually, if I stand them up, you'll see that the Pierre Madenie is ever so slightly taller than the Gassmann. And you can't see the other one because, there you go. So it is shorter than the others. These are all from Yves Raynaud's site in France, and I'll put the link below. They're his, typical, good sturdy hard boxes. They all have the description in French and in English, one on each side. So the description of what the deck actually is, and where it's from. So there's those 3 decks. Then one of the things that I struggled with, so I'm going to show those side by side, but one of the things that I struggled with as well in terms of the Tarot de Marseille was that I like, even with the pips, I'm not a huge fan of some of the, of what some of the pips look like. So in terms of the swords and in terms of the wands or the batons in particular. And there was one TDM deck which came to me from I purchased it off someone, and I couldn't put to words what the difference was. So the ones that I'd been exposed to previously were all reproductions of the Conver deck, which, by the way, is right here. So this I just received. So I wanted to, I did want an old copy of that as well, rather than the CBD. And let me just find a wand here. Okay. Typical wands, right? So most of the things like the CBD and the Hodorowski, and I'm not, by the way, I'm you know, everybody has their own preferences. It's just not my preference, that's all. But I do have some other TDM decks or TDM based decks, I guess. And one of them I really liked, like, so much more. And I couldn't put to words exactly why that was until someone mentioned Claude Burdel. So this one here, you're gonna laugh, but so this is the Tarot Classic, 1971, 72-ish, by Stuart Kaplan. And the wands are different. Look at the at the ends of the wands. They're more ornate than just the black spiky things. And I really like the colors in this deck. I had no idea what the I just thought a TDM deck was a TDM deck was a TDM deck. And then someone brought about the Burdel deck, which would be different than the Conver. And so I started looking again on Mr. Raynaud's site, Tarot Heritage, and found this one, which is the Claude Burdel 1751, which is the one that Tarot Classic is based on. Let's just go to the batons. And there you go. The batons are much prettier, in my opinion. So there's that one, but I wasn't sure, again, so with the shipping to Canada is crazy from France. Actually, even shipping within Canada is absolutely nuts. I probably would have paid as much for these decks if I was just shipping from one side of Canada to the other. But having said that, I also ended up getting the Jacques Burdel, who I believe Jacques was Claude's grandson, and the Nicholas Conver in the same shipment. So I have these 6 decks. I'm going to show those. I'm going to switch the camera, and I'm going to show you what those look like side by side. What you can see on the far right is the Jacques Burdel, and what I have is number 54 out of 1600. So that's 1830. The next one is the Claude Burdel. I have number 1401 out of 3000. The next one over is the François Heri 1730. I have number 295 out of 1500. I'm going to move these out of the way, actually. Okay. Just come a bit closer. The next one is the Madenie 1709 Dijon. I have number 301 out of 1500. The next one will be the Francois Gassmann, as you can see there, 1840. I have a number 295 out of 1500. And finally, we have the Nicholas Conver, 1760. And I have number 1010 out of 1500. So I'm going to flip through I'm just going to flip through one by one. So here's Le Mat. Okay, so it's the Conver, the Gassmann. You can see the coloring differences. The Pierre Madenie. So that one, these two are the colors are similar, not completely the same, but very similar. The greens are slightly different. We have some missing coloration on here, whereas in the Conver, everything is pink. I guess he's wearing a bracelet, maybe. Whereas over here, it's clear that he's actually wearing a sweater. And then his face is white, but there's also some missing color on his stick, whereas here it is in blue. Okay, and the colors are clearly very different here. Some of the details along the bottom are also very different, as you can see. So the shoes are different. The landscape behind them is slightly different in the Gassmann. Okay, so let's move across. We have the Francois Heri, which again is technically not a Terre de Marseille, but rather a Besançon. I don't know completely all the differences other than the Besançon. From what I understand, the main feature that distinguishes a Terre de Marseille deck from a Besançon, if that's how you pronounce it, is the inclusion of, instead of the Pope and the High Priestess, we have the Juno and Jupiter. And that would be the same in the one JJ Swiss that I have as well. All right, so again, the colors are fairly similar, right? Not that different. Moving along to the Claude Burdel and then the Jacques Burdel. Again, you can see the colors are fairly similar. And actually the Jacques Burdel greens, actually everything about the Jacques Burdel is very close to the Pierre Madenie. There are some slight differences, of course. Also in the Gassmann, the Francois Heri, Le Mat is called Le Fool. So Fool. All right, so again, you can see, so here we can see that the colors start varying. There we go. So the Conver on the left, the Gassmann in the middle, the Pierre Madenie. The colors of their clothing is different in the different decks. Their faces are different. And let's move along. So now we have the Heri, the Claude Burdel, and the Jacques Burdel. So again, the Claude Burdel and the Madenie look to me from behind the camera to be kind of very similar. But okay, let's start from this side this time. So now La Papesse. So that's Jacques Burdel and Claude Burdel. Francois Heri. No. What happened to sorry. There she is. So in the Francois Heri, we have Juno instead of La Papesse. Pierre Madenie papas, the Francois Gassmann papas, and the Nicholas Conver papas. So slight differences in them all, as you can see. L'Impératrice, Conver, Gassmann, Madenie, Francois Heri, Burdel, and Burdel. Okay. Hope I'm not making you guys all sick. So the Burdel Emperor. Burdel. So they're very actually quite different, even though they're in the same family. Francois Heri. So here we get, they face in different directions. The Pierre Madenie, again, faces in the same directions as the others, except for the Heri. The Gassmann. And the Nicholas Conver. Le Pape. Okay, so the Francois Heri, again, we have Jupiter in lieu of the Pope. And that's Pierre, Claude Burdel and Jacques Burdel. So we have L'amoureux, the lovers. Colors slightly different. It's the Pierre Madenie. Francois Gassmann. And Nicholas Conver. Okay. So we have the Chariot in the Nicholas Conver, the Gassmann, the Pierre Madenie. So again, the colors are very different between the Gassmann and both the Nicholas Conver and the Pierre Madenie. The Francois Heri. The Claude Burdel. And the Jacques Burdel. So colors are all different. Let's just look at the faces. So we have the Jacques Burdel and the Claude Burdel. I don't know what's going on here with his face. He's got one eye much bigger than the other. And actually, if you look at the boxes, it's the same thing. Got one eye bigger than the other, whereas in the Claude Burdel faces, the eyes are the same size. Either way, they seem a little large for the faces, but maybe that's just me. In the Francois Heri, it is difficult to make out the exact features. I mean, they're there. But the Pierre Madenie, this deck has the best faces in my opinion. I mean, let's look at the box here. They're beautiful. They're much more size appropriate for the face, as opposed to, if you see the Gassmann there, the eyes are disproportional to the size of the face, whereas that one, the Pierre Madenie, is much better. The faces are nicer, cleaner. It's a very pretty deck. And in the Gassmann, we already talked about that one. And in the Conver, I can't tell. He's he almost looks like he's shocked, or I don't know, on a bender maybe. I don't mean, I'm not insulting anybody. Okay, so we have the Conver and the Gassmann. So again, they're quite different actually stylistically. The Pierre Madenie goes back to closer to the Conver. The Gassmann. Claude Burdel. Jacques Burdel. Okay, so that's Justice. The next card, number 9, is the Hermit. L'Ermite. Again, quite a difference between Claude and Jacques Burdel. Oops, there we go. Quite a difference in the Francois Heri. I mean, look at his certainly his hairstyle is different. I mean, the hairstyle in these two is also quite different. Okay. The Pierre Madenie, Gassmann, and Nicholas Conver. So if we can get all of those in, there you go. Okay, so the Nicholas Conver, Wheel of Fortune, Francois Gassmann, the Madenie, the Francois Heri, Claude Burdel, and Jacques Burdel. Okay. The Jacques Burdel, the Claude Burdel, Francois Heri, Pierre Madenie, sorry, they're out of order. It's the Gassmann, and the Nicholas Conver. Okay, and here we go, Le Pendu. Overall shot, and now you can see the Nicholas Conver, Francois Gassmann, Pierre Madenie, Francois Heri, Claude Burdel, and Jacques Burdel. So, very similar, but there are some differences for sure. I mean, in the Gassmann, he's turned slightly to the side and looking down. The Conver and the Madenie and the Heri and the two Burdels, he's looking forward. Most of them have their hands tied behind their back, except for the Francois Heri, where it looks like his hands are, well, it's very interesting anyway. I'm not sure why his hands would be, how that would even be physically possible. But anyway. And then, of course, the other difference being that they all have their, they're just hanging by one leg, right? With their second leg falling forward. And in ancient Roman times, when traders were hung like this, it was done on purpose because that is very uncomfortable. That's my understanding of the situation anyway. And then Francois Gassmann, or rather, it didn't matter how, as much as you would try to straighten your leg out, eventually it's going to give out, and that's going to make it more painful for you. And then in the Francois Gassmann, he's hung by both legs. All right, so we have the unnamed card, and here they all are. So right off the bat, you can see the Francois Heri goes its own way again in terms of looking towards the past rather than the future. The coloring is fairly similar, but slightly different in the different cards. Again, slightly different features. Let's look at them more closely. So we have the Nicholas Conver, the Gassmann, the Madenie, the Heri, the Claude Burdel, and the Jacques Burdel. All right, we have Temperance. There's an overall shot. Very similar imagery. Let's look a little bit more closely. So again, there we go. I will try to get the boxes in there. Something I find interesting is that the names are, or the titles rather, are spelled incorrectly. So the two Burdels, we have Temperance instead of Temperance. It's corrected in the Heri. Or I shouldn't say it's corrected. It is correct in the Heri, because that one was actually done earlier than the other two Burdels. And then again in the Madenie, spelling mistake. And then spelled correctly in the other two, although the Gassmann adds the la. Okay. Overall shot of the star, l'étoile. I think there's some glare there. All right, let's look a little bit more closely. Let's start from here this time. So we have a Conver, the Gassmann, and the Madenie. Slight differences in foliage and in birds and in general colors. Moving along. I don't know what happened to the face of the Heri. Okay. All right, overall shot of La Lune, the moon. I didn't mention, by the way, in the star, again, there were spelling errors in at least one of the cards. There was an extra S in there somewhere. All right, so the Conver, the Gassmann, the Madenie. I like how in the Conver, the thing is still quite below. You can't tell exactly what it is. You can just tell that there is something there. The Francois Heri and the two Burdels. Now, the Francois Heri is the only one that has the the sun actually facing out, and all the others, the sun is facing to the left. Although, I suppose it's supposed to be the moon. Okay. It's overall shot of the sun. So we have the Conver, the Gassmann, and the Madenie. I love the hair on the Gassmann sun. There's the Heri and the two Burdels, and the two Burdels have the hair as well. I really like that there are two figures, and it's very clear that they're in a walled area. It is interesting that there's the Heri is the only one where they're clearly on some ramparts. Overall shot of Judgment. Overall shot of the world, Le Monde. Okay. Again, the Francois Heri decides to go its own way slightly. And that is it for the triumphs. All right, so we come to the suit of batons. We'll go a little bit more quickly here. I really like the Gassmann ace. Which actually is very similar to the Jacques Burdel. Overall shot of the twos. So you can see the difference between the wands of the Conver, the Pierre Madenie, the Francois Heri with against the others. My preference is definitely the more ornate ends of the two Burdels and the Gassmann. Overall shot of the three. So that color variations, I really like the color of the Claude Burdel. I love how there are sort of color splatters everywhere. Of the fours. Very similar. I still really like the two Burdels and the Gassmann. Overall shot of the fives. Overall shot of the sixes. Overall shot of the sevens. Overall shot of the eights. That Gassmann is such a pretty deck, and so are the two Claude Burdels. Overall shot of the tens. I'm pretty sure I've messed up the eights and nines or skipped the nines completely, but I'm not going to go back because, as you can see, they're very similar. Each number just adds another Baton. Quartz, this is the Valet de Baton, or Valet de Baston, as per the Pierre Madenie, the Francois Heri, and the two Burdels. All right, so now we have the Cavalier, Cavaliere, the Knight, and again, as with the valets, they're all facing in the one direction. All have slight differences. It is interesting that the Nicholas Conver has a pink horse and a blue horse in the Gassmann, and a blue horse in the Francois Heri. The other ones are sort of a light brownish. I find that funny because in the Facebook group, one of the Facebook groups that I'm in with respect to Tarot de Marseille, there's a big hullabaloo about whether some of the more modern decks, like the Marshmallow Marseille, are ridiculous and shouldn't be called Tarot de Marseille because they have things like pink horses. Well, there's the Nicholas Conver deck, which has a pink horse. And blue horses, as far as I know, are also not a thing. So, all right, overall shot of La Reine de Baston, or La Reine de Baton, depending on what deck you're looking at. So very similar. All of them are looking to the future. They all have big clubs. Overall shot of the kings of batons. Le roi de baton. Il re di bastoni. Still really like the Gassmann. And the Madenie for the faces, and the two Burdels. Not that I think the Conver is it's a bad card in this case. I do like it. I like the face of the king in the Conver better than on the Gassmann, but not as much as on the Madenie. All right, so we have an overall shot of the Ace of Cups. And you see that there's a couple of different styles. We have this one that looks like a house, and then another quite ornate cup. I really like the more ornate rounded one myself, but that's just a preference. They're all beautiful. I really like the Claude Burdel one with all the detail. They seem to have lost some of the detail in the Jacques Burdel one. And then in the Pierre Madenie and the Nicholas Conver, we don't have as much of that detail in the center panel, which is a shame. And also, I'm not sure what these are supposed to be, but those are gone in the Burdels, and instead they've been replaced with just these other decorative things. I do like so the bottoms, there's also quite a difference in the bottoms and what the cup is sitting on, and the base. I do really like the Gassmann and how it has some foliage. I really like it. The Francois Heri is, bounded by some kind of wreaths. And again, the Claude Burdel just has this gorgeous, maybe it's a tablecloth, I guess. And then another little wreath on the Jacques Burdel. Overall look of the twos. lot of similarities, and of course they also go their own way. Overall shot of the threes, out of two, come a third. It's interesting, out of the 6 that I have here, the Conver appears to be the simplest. Again, the Heri and the Gassmann have my heart here, but also the Claude Burdel. Overall look at the fives. Overall look at the sixes. The sevens. The eights. So cups are all fairly similar. One of the things that I really appreciate actually on the 2 Burdels is they don't have numbers on them. And actually the Gassmann as well, you don't have numbers. It's very easy to count the number of cups. 9 cups. The 10 of cups. Then we come to the Valet of Cups. So these are interesting cards because just when it comes to proportions, their heads are just bizarre. The only one that has a reasonable sized head is the Francois Heri. But look at the Jacques Burdel. Look how his head is actually wider than it is tall, which I don't think is generally the case, but anyway. Oh, this is actually the... All right, I don't know what happened to the, there he is. Sorry. So we come to the knights, the Cavaliere, the coupe. And it is interesting to look at their expressions and how their expressions differ. Because although they all look very similar overall, other than their colors of their clothing and whatnot, if we look at the Conver, he looks pretty serious, or maybe even a little bit worried. We come to the Gassmann, who's looking at the cup or past the cup, and just maybe a bit sly. The Pierre Madenie, he looks content. The Francois Heri looks pretty serious, as does the Claude Burdel, or the Claude Burdel looks more on the contented side. And the Jacques Burdel Yeah, he looks very much like the Gassmann. Just kind of looking a little bit sly. The Queen. I love how their expressions differ. I love the green that's used on the Pierre Madenie on her dress. And also on the Jacques Burdel, the King of Cups. They're all facing to the right. Pretty much have the same posture, just slightly different foot placement. The Ace of Coins. All quite similar. The Nicholas Conver is a little bit less ornate than the Gassmann. The Pierre Madenie and the Heri are very much like the Conver. And then we get to the more ornate Burdels again. Overall shot of the twos. All very, very similar, although I think the Heri I have just upside down. Oh no, okay. So that's interesting. The Heri actually goes in the opposite direction. The wrap that's around it to opposite to all the other ones. The threes. So you can see very similar. So the arrangement of the coins is all the same with the 2 and the 1 above. And the only real difference is, other than the coins themselves, is just the foliage around them. The fours. Some slight differences, especially with the shields. The fives. I don't know, that Claude Burdel is still in the running for my favorite. I don't know if I could decide between that one and the Gassmann as my favorite one here. Although the Heri is also amazing. And they all are, but the sixes. The sevens. The 8. The 9s. The 10s. And again, as you can see here, the Heri goes his own way again and looks in a different direction to everyone else. Let's take a little closer look. I like the Conver one, the colors. Although I'm not a fan of that green, I'll have to caveat that. The Gassmann is amazing. Love the Madenie. The Heri. and the 2 Burdels. Cavalier, Madenie, more blue horsies with pink hair. The queens. And they all face their own, the same direction, I mean. I like the Jacques Burdel one. I do like the François Heri that looks like she's an older lady. The Pierre Madenie has prettiest face. Although I like the coloring of the Gassmann. Okay, otherwise she has a blue hand. All right, and we come to the kings of coins, of course. And the final suit today is the swords, or épées. So we have the Conver, the Gassmann, the Madenie. Look at the difference in the grips between the Gassmann and the other 2. The Heri has the same grip as the Gassmann, although opposite hand. And the 2 Burdel ones have the same. So the only 2 that are different are the Nicholas Conver and the Madenie. So that is quite interesting. I really like the differences on the crowns. They're all very pretty crowns, but I have to say that the Claude Burdel one probably takes the cake for me. Me personally. Swords. So we see some coloration differences again here. I guess we have the card there, so I don't need to show the box. Differences in some of the foliage. I really like the colors on the Claude Burdel and being more of that faded, more of a brown rather than absolute black. But I also really like the faded colors on the Jacques Burdel and the Pierre Madenie. The 3. The 4s. Slight differences in foliage, also in colors. And you can see the Conver and the Madenie add that little red square in between. Again, I love the Claude Burdel colors. The 5 of Swords. So with the 5 breaking through the nut, which you can very clearly see on the Madenie and the Conver. You can see it here too in the Gassmann, although it's, I guess the coloration or the colors got missed there. Not so much in the Heri. It looks like it's just going in behind. And oh, you can see it again here in these 2, the sword piercing through. All right, so we have the 6. I love the little Heri events. It is interesting to note the different colors on the hilts of the swords. So we have some reds and more of an orange or a rusty color. We've got yellows, different shades of yellow. We've got yellow and red on the Conver. It's quite interesting. And what I really enjoy actually about the swords on some of these, so if we look at the Conver, we'll see that you can't really tell what's the top and what's the bottom. They all look the same. Whereas if we go to the Gassmann and the two Burdels, you will actually be able to see the hilts, which is nice. Because then you can decide what is up and what is down. I think this one is upside down, but anyway, that's okay. So that's the Gassmann, and the two Burdels have the actual hilts, ornate hilts. Okay, so we come to the 8 of Swords. Again, very, very similar. The foliage in the center, or the flower in the center, looks different. Okay, and we come to the 9s. So the foliage in the center has been replaced by a sword. I think I have the one for the Heri upside down. Okay. The 10 of Swords. So now we have the swords piercing through, although in different places. So I'm not sure whether it means anything, or you could consider it to mean something, but all the others, the swords are piercing through in the same spot. So sort of in between the two swords and the two swords, except for the Heri is piercing through in just the central set of swords. So again, differences in coloration, just lines that have been cleaned up. The Conver has pink hair. It is interesting. I like the Gassmann is quite ornate, his costume. I really like how, and again, the faces are a little messed up, but I love how the colors are sort of, not, they didn't color inside the lines perfectly. I really like that. And I really love the greens of the Madenie. We come to the Knight of Swords. Actually, one of the things I didn't mention about the valets is that the François Heri, the Valet of Swords, is the only one that faces in the same direction as everyone else. All the other valets in the François Heri face in the opposite direction, if I'm not mistaken. And we come to the Queens. I love the Queen on the Jacques Burdel. Prettier Queen on the Madenie. I love the colors on the Gassmann. Not so much the blue, but the greens for sure. And those reds. And the last card we come to is the Kings. Let's take a closer look. Their hats are quite different. The coloring on their armor is different, but generally they're in the same pose, all facing the same way. The Madenie is so pretty. And the Jacques Burdel I really enjoy as well, and the François Heri. Actually, I like the Conver one too in this case. Okay, so the other thing I did not show, which I just wanted to show, was the backs on all of them. So that's the Conver. This is the Gassmann. The Pierre Madenie. I think those are the 3 that I showed. The François Heri. Very pretty. Claude Burdel, again, very pretty. And the Jacques Burdel. So that is that. The Gassmann is the only one that I modified by edging and doing the corner rounding. I might do the corner rounding on some of the other ones. It really depends on how the shuffling experience is. And in terms of cardstock throw, pretty similar. It's not shiny. It has a slight sheen, as you can see there, but you know, it is kind of cardboardy paper, so you probably don't want to be too rough with shuffling them. But I also think that they're going to be pretty sturdy. So, and again, like the boxes are very sturdy. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you have any questions. And thank you very much, Monsieur Raynaud, for all of these decks. They're each and every one is amazing for and has its own peculiarities and features that make them amazing all on their own. So until next time, my friends.